And you smile and you stop and you turn and you go around and you get to the bottom and you say and you smile, just eat it out, just say it my way. Let's keep on talking to say you want revolution, well you know and you can start to make it. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be.
You know, every Christmas season, I really prepare myself because I have to reread the scriptures on the Christmas story. And the reason is because at Christmas time, every one of you come to hear about the Christmas story. Let's face it, if I was talking about excuses today, unless it tied into the Christmas story, that would be slightly weird, because in our culture, we pay so much attention to this season at Christmas. Now, with it, what happens is it's the same old thing. So when I go to look and search through, okay, I'm rereading this story. Can I explain this maybe in a different lens? And so as I was rereading it, what I did is going through the thing, I recognized that there was some truth that stuck out to me, and that's something that was true of me, but it was true of you too. And it intersects with this. It intersects with this incredible Christmas story that we're going to read. Now, I don't know about you, but I kind of grew up in sometimes the Christmas story was kind of boring. You know, it was just kind of like, it was like David begat so-and-so, and so-and-so begat so-and-so, which begat so-and-so. But do you ever notice, let's go to your life right now, about how we go through different stages of life, but we have this unquenchable desire to make sense out of it. You ever try to make sense out of your life? You know, you're sitting there and you're just trying to make sense out of every decision that possibly comes up. And you start thinking, you know what? Nothing's random. Nothing's random. We just want everything to come together. Now, I've mentioned it before, but I really love a good old Christmas tree setup. Now, you'll notice not everybody has a Christmas tree, and that's perfectly fine. It's just something that I really enjoy. Now, we got one with microfiber, I believe that's the word for it. If it's not, correct me. Am I wrong? Fiber optic. I know microfiber, fiber optic, right? You know, same thing. At least. So what happens is when every Christmas, Mary Lou and I, now you'll notice there's a picture up there, because I have a way that I put on the decorations on the tree. Mary Lou has another way. See, that's my tree on the one side, that's her tree on the other. She likes to decorate it. Now, this is actually Las Vegas. We are not that good at putting our trees together. We are not paid to put the tree together like this, but we act like it. We act like it with the Christmas lights when we put them all up every Christmas. And so we just kind of find that there's something that goes somewhere. And she gets mad at me. Guys, are you with me? What happens when your spouse gets mad at you for putting it in the wrong place? You just kind of back away and just say, well then fine, you do it. Right? You know, it's just because it doesn't make sense to you. Two different people, it makes different sense to. Now, I want you to think for a moment about your life right now at Christmas time. Does everything just fit right? Is every section of life with your job and with your family, is it all fitting together? See, when all the lights come together, we kind of look and we kind of see, okay, is it right? As we're kind of going through all the lights outside, and we're saying, are the dots connecting? If there's a light bulb out, you want to pay attention to it. You know there's got to be there's a problem somewhere. There's got to be a light that just burned. When the decorations go up, once they get all up there and they look all pretty, once you put them in the right place, now you say it all makes sense. Because it looks beautiful. And in life, we're like that. We're like that with the questions that we have. And it's not a Christian thing, and it's not a religious thing, it's a humanity thing. We want to make sense of life. We say things like, We met where we were supposed to meet. Who would have thought we would have met in a manger? No. Some of you, it's other places we won't discuss. Or some of you are like, I got that cool promotion, and it was because it was due. There's always a reason for it. Your kid graduated from school. Why? Because they're smart. You had a birth of a child. Why? Because God ordained it and set it and put it in place. Now, I'm going to show you a few reasons. You can kind of go along with me. Tell me, and just check this off, a mental check, if this is you. Let's go through 3 of them here. Everything happens for a reason. Put your hand up if that's you. Come on. Yeah, that's right. Everything happens for a reason. Does it? How about this one? Do you say, I don't believe in coincidence? Yeah. I meet somebody in Toronto that's from Edmonton, and they're like, oh, I don't believe in coincidence. And I go, well, let's exchange names. Why not, right? How about this? There's some sort of cosmic force, some God, some karma. I don't know, but it all fits together. 2 more. How about this one? Guess it just wasn't meant to be. Why do we say that? What does that mean? It just wasn't meant to be. How about this one? It will all work out. Does that make you feel better? Is that why you say that? Or is there something inside of you that you know it will work out? You know that this was not the time, or that's not the person. We just so badly want life to fit together, no matter what it is. And you hit this big bump in life, and there's this big tragedy, and we kind of ask the question, and we say, why? Why, God? Like, why do good things happen to me? Bad things happen to me. Why do good things happen to bad people? We've talked about that before, right? But when you're facing something that brings extraordinary pressure in your life, there's a pain. There's a pain that you have, and you're trying to make sense of everything. Divorce. Divorce is painful. Nobody plans for divorce. You plan to meet somebody great. You plan to get a career. You plan to get engaged. You plan to get married and have kids. But it hasn't turned out like you had planned it. It was like a random event that happened. You ask yourself, why is this happening to me? I don't understand it. God, could you help me with? And not only do I not know where to put this in my life, I don't even want this in my life. And if you don't want this in your life, it becomes really frustrating. Now, how many people love pets, right? You got dogs, cats, hamsters, snakes, fish, whatever. Sorry, guys. To my family, fish, they're not pets. I can't pet them. Until I can pet them. But they're beautiful to look at. They're fun to mimic. I had a St. Bernard. I love St. Bernard dogs. Now, I really don't believe that my St. Bernard Sonny really ever worried about what was happening to him. He just got up in the morning, he ate, he went out to his doghouse, and he slept. That was his life. I don't think he was laying there going, well, I wonder how this nap connects to yesterday's nap, and maybe the naps of the world will come together. Yeah, that's how St. Bernards sound, by the way. It's just not like mysteriously he's thinking that. I don't think that my dog worried about things like that in life. But humanity worries about it. And there's something that's in you and in you and in me that we're trying to make sense of this bigger picture of life because we just want it to make sense. And it kind of becomes like that pebble in your shoe, when you're walking and it becomes awkward. And so you're trying to make sense of how that pebble got inside of your shoe. Was it where you were running? You're just trying to figure things out. It's because you feel like there isn't enough and there's got to be more. And that's that sense of purpose. You just get this agony sense of purpose. And even if things appear wonderful on the outside for a lot of you, on the inside, at the end of the day, your relationships could be thriving, but still on the inside, you're just empty because you're not connected to that bigger purpose. And God is saying there is a purpose. Let it be my purpose. Let it be my plan. Let it be my will. Now, you don't always know what it is. And sometimes it doesn't always fit together perfectly. But even though it doesn't fit together purposely, that's okay. Now, the Christmas story is the best example of God coming down into the randomness of life and the chaos of life and really reminding the world that there is a plan and that there is a design. The Christmas story is really a picture of God coming down and really helping us through this process. I'm just going to grab my scripture here. Everything in this Christmas story has hung on this phrase that came from Luke when he said, the virgin's name was Mary. That doesn't sound very profound. He had no idea what would happen as a result of him telling this story. Cathedrals would be built because of Mary. Wars would be fought because of Mary. Buildings all over the world would be built because of Mary. Missionaries would be sent. Books would be written. People would give their lives in order to get the story translated into a common language. All because of that phrase, Mary's name to be mentioned. Now, in the Christmas story, there's Mary. She's just another random person. She's like you. She's like me. She's not any different. She's not extra special. She's a random person in life, in a random series of events. And what may seem random to you and me is really purposeful in the plan of God. And that's why we see purpose in our life. Now, what I'd like to do is I'd like to actually read through this story. So let's take a look at Luke 1, 25 and 26. In the 6th month of Elizabeth's pregnancy, God sent the angel Gabriel to Nazareth, a village in Galilee, to a virgin named Mary. She was engaged to be married to a man named Joseph, a descendant of King David. Gabriel appeared to her and said, "Greetings, favored woman. The Lord is with you." Confused and disturbed, Mary tried to think what the angel could mean. "Do not be afraid, Mary," the angel told her, "for you have found favor with God. You will conceive and give birth to a son, and you will name him Jesus, and he will be very great, and he will be called the Son of the Most High. The Lord God will give him the throne of his ancestor David, and he will reign over Israel forever. His kingdom will never end." Mary asked the angel, "But how can it happen?" It says, "The Most High will overshadow you, so the baby to be born will be holy, and he will be called the Son of God." Now this story, as we walk through this story, it's an amazing story with a lot of little bits of truth, but I just want to step back for a minute and go, whoa, wait. Did you notice that scripture says his kingdom will never end? Do you guys catch that? Or was that just lost? Probably was lost, right? Now, do you realize that the nation of Israel had not been an independent kingdom for 500 years? For 500 years, and all of a sudden, his kingdom will never end. He doesn't have a kingdom. And now this son of Mary is going to have a kingdom that will go on and on and on. What a story. Now there's about 400 years, we're just going to step back for a sec. 400 years since the Jews had even heard from God. God had not showed up randomly anywhere for 400 years. Now, out of the randomness of life, God shows up. Theologians call this the 400 years of silence. But there really wasn't silence in the world, because during those 400 years, amazing things happened. First up, the Babylonian Empire rose up, and everybody thought, Babylon forever! Babylon forever! Then came the Persian Empire. Persia forever! Persia forever! But then after that came Alexander the Greek, and it was the Greeks' time to rule. And so the Greeks ruled now for a period of time, but that empire became split. Eventually Rome came along. This is the time when Mary was living, and everyone thought, Rome forever. Rome forever. It's kind of like God showed up in history and said, this is not about the plans of man. This is about my will. Let it be my plan, my will, my purpose. And if we look at the details of history, We may not see God at all times, but understand this. Life is not random. God is at work at all times. He is God and He is everything according to His purpose. So the first thought I want to give you today is on occasion, number one. On occasion, God drops directly into the lives of men and women like Mary to push forward His plan. I believe Elevate Church dropped directly into the lives of men and women right here in Edmonton, Alberta in 2017 to push forward God's plan.
Yeah.
God put you into Elevate Church to push forward His plan.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa, now I get it. It was a random act, a random moment that no one saw coming, and boom, there's a church in Movies 12, Cineplex. It's just there. It just came. After this occurrence with the angel, now, this is something that happens, and you're going to understand how we see this as a church. Mary's life went back to normal. Elevate Church went back to normal. We had our, hey, we're here. Mary had the angel, I'm here. We all have those moments, but things go back to normal. And the angel Gabriel never showed up to see Mary again. But I bet she wished she did, that the angel had shown up again, because her life got very complicated over the next period of time. This is the bad news. She had to go to Bethlehem. You want to hear the really bad news? The best way to get there was riding on a donkey. Hee-haw! Hee-haw! And she was pregnant. Now, I've had 3 daughters, and I've watched my wife deal with pregnancy. I have 3 daughters and a lot of grandchildren, and I've watched them deal with pregnancy. They would not want to ride a donkey, especially for 120 miles. Now, I want you to think about this now with Mary. Misfavored of God. Right? Misfavored of God. Is she so favored she's riding a donkey and she's about to give birth in a stable? What happened to the Holiday Inn at least, right? You know, the Sheridan would have been a little bit better. Maybe we could stay at the Hotel McDonald or something like that. But she gets there and there's no rooms available. Where was God? Where was God in all this? It was emptiness. It was troubles. It was hardship. Once we planted Elevate Church, there was hardships. There was us being alone, and some of us felt like we were riding a donkey. And some of you felt like you were the donkey. It's just life. It's hard work, and you do your best. But could you imagine Mary? She's sitting there, she goes, you're telling me not only do I have to make this trip, there's just no room for me in this inn? Joseph, give him a tip. No, it's not going to work. Why would God allow this to happen? Why would God allow something like this to happen? Now Herod, this is where the story gets worse. Herod is a king, and he finds out that a new Christ child king has been born. And he's angry, and he's jealous. He wants his name to be forever and ever, not the newborn king. And this is the tragic part of the Christmas story, if you read on. Herod's soldiers, they show up and they slaughter every child 2 years and younger. They were there to kill all the males. But Roman soldiers, you know, they were thorough. And they would not go back and report, yeah, you know, we missed a few boys along the way. So they thought it would be fine to kill a few girls. So they took them with them as well, so that they could say that we didn't miss anybody. And that was the plan. And in the end, every single parent with children 2 years and younger, and it rips my heart today to think about this. They had their babies ripped out of their hands, and they were slaughtered in a random, senseless, purposeless expression of jealousy. The Christmas story, it's got a lot of hardships with it at the same time. For the rest of Mary's life, she lived knowing God saved her little baby. Her little baby. When I was 17 years old, I had a car accident. A 15-year-old boy died. I remember people talking to me. You might have heard me share this story before, but I remember people talking to me and saying, you know, Evan, we're with you. We're here for you. But it didn't matter. Because like, God, why, if you could have saved him, let me go. How do you think Mary felt? She's given birth, and this one child lives, so all these others are sacrificed. And God did nothing to rescue those other children. That's all she could see. That's all she could think. What was the point in that? What was the purpose in that? And how does it fit in? And does it really make sense? Here's the second point that you need to take home. For the most part, our days are made up of mostly random events. Your life is a random event, and be it a random event of celebration and excitement when God just shows up and He's here in your life and you're like excited and you have those days. But then you have those other moments when things are just random, event after event after event. Years would go by. Mary would experience the most unimaginable pain and sorrow. Remember, the angel is gone. The angel is, she's gone through the birth. Now she's raised the Son of God. She's raised Jesus. And she faced sorrow that no mother should ever face. Her firstborn son would be beat to within an inch of his life. That's still the Christmas story. See, the story just starts at that one point when he's a baby. But there's a whole story that's with this. We have to look at the big picture. She saw the gore. She saw her son with the crown of thorns dragging out into the street and just watching him as he's forced to carry a cross that he's going to be nailed to die an unimaginable death. And it was the most humiliating of deaths. Did you know the Romans had perfected the art of execution and crucifixion? They would make sure that you could be prolonged your death to make an example for you amongst the people. Yet Jesus had done nothing wrong except claim to be who he was. But God said, let it be my plan. Let it be my will. Let it be my purpose. And Mary, she watched her son die. Little Miss Favored of God would die. Jesus would die. And little Miss Favored of God, who everyone looked at and said, look at her life. Look how great it is. She was about to go through agonizing pain as a mom. In those moments, it was not just another random act of Roman violence that had no good end in sight. There was an end. But had God lost control? Think about this. Has God lost control in something that you've experienced? This very moment right now, it might look like things are lost for you. You're like, I don't understand this, and I'm trying to figure this out. And at that moment for Mary, her son would pay for the sin of all humanity. For all humanity. That thing in you that wants to put things in order, you know what that is? That is the thumbprint of God. When you want to make perfect sense out of why this happened or that happened, that is the thumbprint of God. And it's been put into you. And yes, there's random acts that happen in your life. And they will happen over a period of time. Sometimes you experience the celebration. And other times you just experience the pain. But there is a plan that's in place. And at Christmas we're reminded that He is Emmanuel, God with us. But that wasn't just His name. He would be with us for all eternity. He's with us today if we so choose to follow Him. He wants it to fit together in your life, and He wants you to see how it fits together in your life. And the third point that I want you just to take home with you today, know that faith is responding to the seemingly random events of life as if they are the perfect plan of God. That's your job. It's to develop your faith, to grow your faith. And all that is doing is you responding to those random events that you don't think and don't understand why they happen, and understanding, could they be just a perfect plan that God has put into place? No matter how great or how frustrating or sad it's caused. And I believe this is a beautiful description of faith. And it's found in Mary's words when Mary says this. She says, I am your servant, and may it be to me according to your word. I don't know if you catch that. She says, in other words, I am your servant, God, and let it happen in my life as you plan it. That is the perfect faith. Do you agree with me? That is the perfect faith. When you just accept whatever it is and say, God, I'm going to roll with this, and I'm going to trust you through this. Now, here's the good news. Regardless of what God has handed you, regardless of what you're experiencing in life, He wants you to find that purpose. God is active in this world today. This is how I'd like to close today. If I get Janet and get you to come up. As you've approached this Christmas season, you've been handed something that you were not expecting. It might have been a job loss. Maybe there's tension in your marriage. You didn't see it coming. Maybe you got bad news about your health. Maybe it's about the health of a child or a parent. Someone that you absolutely love. And for some of you, it's something at work that has just torn you apart. Today, we have put together these ornaments. And in these ornaments, this Christmas, I'm going to get Pastor Brad to grab these right at the end when we go to pray. He's just going to stand outside these doors. He didn't know I was recruiting him. And he's just going to hand these out to you guys to take home. You can put these on your tree, and they say EC 2017. Elevate Church 2017. This is your random event of 2017. Whatever it is. No matter where it is, you're going to take this and you're going to find its perfect place to fit into your tree. Or at least it's going to be a memory's sake to think about where does this fit into your life today. Heavenly Father, we believe that nothing is impossible for you. Nothing is too difficult, and nothing takes you by surprise. And Father, I pray for every single person that's here, every person that's watching or listening who would say, I'm afraid and I don't know what the next step is. I don't know where to go from here. Would you give them the wisdom to know what to do and what they've just heard, and just the courage to do what they need to do. I pray over you today that you would have peace that surpasses all human comprehension, that you would guard your hearts and your minds. Father, that you would protect their minds and their hearts as they trust in you. And for those you're here today and you're not sure where you stand with him, you know, maybe you're so happy someone's just praying for you today and it's been a long time since they prayed. I pray that today in this moment that you would experience a peace and a grace in such a way that it draws your heart towards Christ. And that we would not be afraid to hope again. That we would not be afraid to wish, and we would not be afraid to look into the future, because we believe that just as our God was with Mary that morning, our God is with us. Emmanuel, God with us. And if that's you today, all you have to do is just say yes to Jesus. It's not a complicated thing. Just say, Jesus, forgive me for the things that I've done that have separated me from you. That's what sin is. It's missing the mark that God has set out. He says, you want to draw closer? We just say, God, take the things I've done wrong, the things that have pulled me away from you, and remove them from my life. And when we do that, we just make a decision to now follow Jesus. We let him lead our life each and every day to the best of our ability so that we can fulfill God's plan. Let it be God's will. Let it be God's plan. Let it be God's purpose. In Jesus' name.